Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. Welcome to those present, and I'll open the meeting now at 6 o'clock, and there's a live stream on, please. The City of Swan acknowledges the traditional custodians of the region, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to our elders past, present and their descendants. Excuse me. To the disclaimer, the City of Swan disclaims any liability for any loss arising from any person or body relying on any statement, discussion, recommendation or decision made during this meeting. Where an application for approval, a licence or the like is considered or determined during this meeting, the City warns that neither the applicant nor any other person or body should rely upon those discussions or determination until written notice of either an approval and the conditions which relate to it or the refusal of the application has been issued by the City. Please note this meeting is being live streamed. The recording will be made and archived and made available for the Council website after the meeting. If you choose to participate in the meeting during public question time and or public statement time, it is assumed your consent is given for the audio to be recorded. Please keep your comments respectful to the Council and other members of the community. Visual images of the public will not be captured. Conditions of entry. No electronic, visual or audio recording or transmitting device or instrument is being permitted to be used. A person who breaches this provision of the Swan Meeting Procedures Law 2019 will be required to leave the premises immediately. Thank you. Attendance and apologies. We have apologies from Councillor Lucas, and we have one member of Council attending by Zoom who has COVID, Councillor Henderson. Other than that, I think everyone else is here tonight. Councillor Kiley is not here, and I have a statement to make on Councillor Kiley a bit later on. Thank you. Declarations of financial and proximity interest and interest affecting impartiality. Councillor Catalano has declared an impartial interest on item 1313. Councillor Howlett declared an impartial interest on 1313. Councillor Bowman declared an impartial interest on item 3.1. Councillor Bowman declared an impartiality interest on item 4.4. Councillor Bowman declared an impartial interest on item C3.1. Councillor Henderson declared an impartiality interest on item C3.1. Ms Lay declared an impartiality interest on item C3.1. And Councillor Parry has declared impartiality interest on 3.1 as he is a member of the Swan Active. Public question times. Questions and answers were recorded in the minutes of the meeting and may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Act Administration Regulation 1996. Questions and answers marked with an asterisk have been amended either for the purpose of summarising, e.g. removing preamble statements or editing. 5.1. Answers to questions which were taken on notice at the 6th of July 2022. Questions taken on notice at the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 6th of July 2022 from Mr Julie D. Asenzo on behalf of Mr Vic D. Asenzo, Mr John Kemish on behalf of Michael Spanich, Mr John Kemish, Mr Cosimo Coniglio, Miss Anne James and Mrs Walsh and Mrs Helen Quaife were included in the agenda. 5.2. Questions relating to reports contained in the agenda. 5.21. Questions which due notice has been given. There are questions from Miss Teresa Bailey. Questions and answers are contained in the white folder. There were 4 questions. Questions with due notice. If any member in the public wishes to speak or to ask a question on an item on the agenda. There are none. Okay, thank you. 5.3. Other questions. Any matter not on the agenda. Questions 5.3.1, which due notice has been given. Dr. Stempfel gave 4 questions and they have been responded to in the white folder. You happy with those? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Thank you. 7.1, petitions regarding item 4.1 Metropolitan Regional Scheme Amendment 3096-57 rationalisation of Roe Hill Estate, South Guildford. You've got some to be tabled, or have they already been tabled?
We missed public.
Oh, my apologies. I turned a page. I'm sorry, my apologies. Sorry, would you mind waiting just a tick? I turned 2 pages at once. Thank you. So we're 5.3.2 questions of without due notice. Are there anyone? I've already asked that. I've got any questions? Public statement time. So 6, registration of public statement time at the council meetings required by 3 p.m. on Tuesday, the 2nd of August. 3 people have registered to make a public statement. Each person has 2 minutes to make their public statement. And the first one is Mrs. Francesca Irwin regarding the current Swan District Senior Citizen Centre on Junction Parade. Come to the microphone, and you know the pack drill, I'm sure.
Thank you and good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Francesca Irwin. I live in Woodbridge and have been part of the 6056 community and Midland Society for over 25 years. My statement relates to the petition that Midland Society have coordinated and will be presented shortly. The petition calls for the City of Swan to undertake necessary building repairs and refurbishment to 21 Junction Parade Midland to allow it to be used as a Midland community centre. Mayor and councillors, the Senior Citizens Building was built in 1973 with public funds raised by the Swan District Senior Citizens Association. It was bought from them in 2015 by the council at a cost of $1.6 million as part of the Morn project and was expected to be demolished. In the intermediate term, senior citizens leased the building. The current condition of the building is sadly neglected. It is being allowed to fall into disrepair. It is underused, has virtually no amenity and no clear future. What a terrible waste of ratepayers' money. There are many examples of community hubs throughout the metro and regional area. The recently refurbished Alice Daveron Senior Citizens Centre in Lockwich is one. Brilliant. And our neighbouring councils in Mundaring and Kalamunda have best practice examples. So why does Midland not have its own community hub? We don't have one. Why is the senior citizens' use of 21 Junction Parade such a limited experience? And why has a council let the building become so degraded with no future plan firmed up? It's just about impossible to find a suitable venue in Midland for a community activity. Bidlanders are the poor cousins of the amenities available at other City of Swan suburbs. We earnestly request that the City of Swan pull together interested stakeholders and coordinate a strategy implementation plan for the use of this building as an intergenerational community hub. This hub should be cost neutral, perhaps managed by the City of Swan and a community management board. Council and Mayor, you've all received a detailed letter from Glenys Russell, a senior citizen, and she attached 2 additional letters from other senior citizens on this topic, requesting the same. This is not a fringe request. This is a mainstream Midland community need and opportunity that we ask you to take responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Next one is Mr. Craig Benaporth in relation to item 4.1 Metropolitan Regional Scheme Amendment 3096-57 of Rose Hill Estate, Guildford. Thank you, Craig. Turn your microphone on. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi,
good evening.
Have 2 minutes.
All right, representing South Guildford Community Association, we're against motion 4.1. First, I must ask the question, how do the councillors vote for this motion without the public being notified and given the opportunity to object? I've been here before and it seems like I may be here a few more times, as the developer is continuing with requests through all known channels possible in the hopes that he can create and sell more plots. Unfortunately, there are consequences to these requests, which I will briefly address and remind you of. The rezoning in effect allows for at least 50 extra residential plots and about 100 new vehicles at this stage. Safety. To date, there has been no improvement to Queen's Road intersection, and even worse, there is no plan for any change until the bridge gets modified. All requests for changes to the structural plan and rezoning should only be entertained after such time as this is resolved. Community well-being. A theoretical ANEF contour has been supplied showing sound levels with a maximum of 82 decibels, yet physical tests taken by the developer himself show readings of over 100 decibels. This is not even close. Even with good noise attenuation, sound levels will be up to double the government recommended levels in sleeping areas. Before rezoning is considered, an accurate sound test over a reasonable period of time should be completed in order to supply accurate information on which a decision can be made. I also notice the submission there is no approval from Perth airports. Lastly, heritage and environment. We have already seen heritage removed in order to facilitate the sale of residential plots, and more will follow. In addition, large trees will continue to be removed. Numerous objections made challenging the heritage, the change in the beginning of the Rosedale development have been ignored. There is a structural plan that was initially suitable to the developer. They have had a great period of sales and been more than fortunate, so let's stick with what they initially agreed to. We ask the councillors to assist Rosedale community by looking out for our safety, health and well-being and protecting our unique and wonderful environment before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Well done, right on time. Miss Stenfel. Thank you. It's on the same item.
Yeah, that's all right. So thank you, everybody. I'm here to speak against motion 4.1. So taken as a whole, it seems that this proposal has a single beneficiary, Rosehill, and really provides no tangible benefits for the residents. Generally speaking, when one exchanges something, one will hope that you get like for like. In this instance, the intrinsic values of the two blocks proposed for exchange is very different. The land swap will hand over to Rosehill prime real estate land free of charge, where they can install up to 15 lots in one-of-a-kind location. The land that we will receive in exchange is in poor condition and has no value to Rosehill. They will be relieved of the financial burden to rehab that lot into park open space. There is also no assurance that WAPC will rehab the land that will be swapped out of Rosehill estate portfolio and make it into a usable space. They may leave it as it is, fenced off and let to rotten. We may end up losing access to public green space. If Rosehill really needs the land swap to rationalize the creek line and their boundaries, they could have explored many different options. For example, they could get the 2.3 hectares and keep it urban non-residential. They could buy the land they want to develop into housing. They could donate the equivalent land values to conservation groups. They could rehab the 1.3 hectares before dumping it on us. However, the option that was put forward is obviously the most beneficial to Rosehill. The questions here are, why does the public have to subsidize a developer? Is this swap a fair deal for the public? And how does supporting this rezoning square with council opposition to an increase in dwelling density put forward by the same proponent in October 2021? As your officers have already asked you, please be consistent. We all know that the only one that gets the rose in this deal is the developer, and the rest of us are left clutching thorns.
Ms. Stenfel, have you got much more to go?
No, that's it.
That's it?
Please do not support the motion.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other statements? No. All right, so we go on to petition 7.1, petitions regarding the 4.1 Metropolitan Regional Scheme Amendment. Ms. Stenfel, I did say to you earlier, have you got a petition for that?
I do.
You could hand it over to the staff, please.
Yeah, I have my 2-minute statement to go with it too. So this is a petition to urge you not to support motion 4.1, and we have about 50 people that signed it. The community has been late in reacting to this proposal, as we were not aware until last Saturday that this item was on the agenda. We had little time to react, and this is why you only received 20 dissenting emails, and you have only 50 signatures on the petition. However, as I understand, these numbers are already fourfold greater than the number of supporters that the developers claims to have for this proposal. What I want to stress here is that there has been no community consultation for this rezoning and land swap.
Ms. Stenfel, that's not part of the
right.
petition. So, you know, I would ask you to present the petition, which you have, and what the petition actually says. And
okay, sure,
thank
sorry.
you. So otherwise it allows you more time to go into a public statement.
You caught
nice
me on
try,
that one.
thank you, but I'm sorry. Thank you.
I wasn't trying, I didn't know this was the rule. Anyway, the petition says to reject the proposal swap of 1.3 hectares of land from NOAA Rosehill Estate Water holdings with 2.3 hectares of land held within the Swan River Trust and associated rezoning of 6 hectares from rural to urban. There is no advantage for the community of the land swap, and I'm reading here. The 2 parcels of lands hold different values, and Rose Hill Estate has already committed to develop the 1.3 hectares into an open green area. So by allowing the developers to shift land to WIPC, they will be relieved by their obligation.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right.
Thank
It's
you.
the same
Thank you.
stuff.
You can hand
So
it to the staff. Thank you.
thank you very much. I will be more prepared next time.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. And I look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you.
So 7.2, the petition regarding... Oh, yes, sorry, yes, you're right. The above petition be dealt with in conjunction with 4.1 Metropolitan Regional Scheme Amendment. I need someone to move. Councillor Bowman, seconded Councillor Jones. Is there anyone against? Declare that one carried. The next one is 7.2, petition regarding the current Swan District Senior Citizen Centre. And I think Councillor Howlett, are you presenting that? And again, can you please tell us what's on top of the petition?
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. So the petition reads, we, the undersigned, all being electors of the City of Swan, request the Council that the City of Swan undertake the necessary building repairs and refurbishments to 21 Junction Parade Midland to allow it to be used as a Midland Community Centre.
Yes.
How many signatures on that one?
There are 141 signatures.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I need the above petition be referred to the CEO and a report presented to a future council meeting. Mover, Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Parry. Anyone against? Declare it carried. 7.3, there's a petition, I think from Councillor Henderson, which is containing more than 130 names, requesting main roads and the WA and the City of Swan take remedial action at this Hadrill Road and Campsick Road, Baskerville intersection. And I think we've already had that tabled, have we not? You have got a copy? You have a copy. All right. Councillor Henderson.
Mr Mayor, if I may, thank you. The petition has been sent to the CEO. Just to note that there are 580 petitioners. However, staff may have looked through that to see who were local, just to make it clear that some have different postcodes but are in fact local. The petition was a e-petition from Ms Karen Knight. Refers to the intersection of Campsick and Hadrill Roads and another serious crash that occurred.
So, Councillor Henderson, to be fair with everybody, can you please tell me what's on top of the petition, the wording, please?
The problem I have is it's about 2/3 of a page. So I'm trying to trace that for you, Mr Chairman.
Okay.
So it's an RAC Risky Road. They want to change the giveaway sign to a stop sign, which we've attempted to do. Mr Deputy Mayor, I move that the petition be referred to the CEO for a further report to council meeting.
Seconder, Councillor Zanino. Anyone against? Declare that carried. Okay, are there any other members of the gallery and or of the councils who have another petition? No. All right. So deputations number 8 had already been discussed at the agenda forum. Announcements by the presiding member. I have a couple of them. Firstly, you might note, councillors and those online and people in the gallery, there's a new face to my right. The CEO Cliff Fruing started with the city this week on Monday. Cliff is the second tenure with the city, having been involved here since the 1990s. Cliff is here as an acting CEO until the council appoint a new CEO. Cliff has served the CEO with the City of South Perth, acting CEO at the Shire of Denmark, City of Subiaco, and most recently City of Bayswater, and comes with a lot of credentialed to oversee the role of the city until we have a new CEO appointed. I also encourage everyone to get along to the City Avon Descent Festival, which is on Sunday the 14th of August from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and hopefully the rain will stay away so you don't get absolutely satched. But if it is there, take a good umbrella or wet weather gear because we need the rain. And the other thing I would like to discuss with everyone is that Councillor Kylie has provided his resignation as a councillor of the City of Swan, effective on the 10th of August. And on behalf of the council, our councillors and staff, I would sincerely like to say thank you to Councillor Kylie, or Andrew I like to call him, on his presence in the chamber over a number of years. He's been a really, really good councillor, very dedicated to his job, and it'll be sad that he's going, but it happens. People come and people go. So he's an apology here for tonight, and his position then becomes official on the 10th of August. And that's all I have under my announcements. So we'll go to item 10. 10.1, answers to questions were taken on notice of the 6th of July ordinary meeting. There are nil. 10.2, questions of which notice have been given since. Sorry, you've got a question?
I've got some questions without notice, sorry. Can we up to that point yet?
You are. In a minute. In a minute. So we have questions from Councillor Bowman, which were a series of 3 questions that have been answered in the folder. Councillor Johnson, you had a question in there as well, a question relating to the Hesperia development. That's been answered, I hope. 10.3, questions which due notice has not been given. Councillor Johnson, there are a few in there about the Malaga transfer station. You happy with those responses? Very good. All right. So I think then we need to any questions from members.
Yes, thank you. It's just a couple of questions about the Rosehill changes, which is item 4.1, because I'm extremely confused now.
Just one moment, please.
Can I talk about? Can I ask questions about?
Just one moment, please.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, but I've got to find out what the question is first. Sorry, Councillor, you want to talk about questions within 4.1?
Yes. Do I wait till 4.1?
Wait till 4.1.
Yes, that's fine. I just wanted to get
Councillor Johnson, you wanted a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. I've got a question about the RAC Risky Road Survey. It says in there that Midvale's Farrell Road was named Perth's most dangerous road, with many residents pointing out a lack of infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists. I'm just reading this directly from the RAC website. May I ask, Mr. Presiding Member, through you, if the CEO or Mr. Coton could make any comments on why that might be?
Well, I think we should probably take it on notice, Councillor Johnson, as I don't know anyone has read the article. Unless you read the article, Mr. Coton?
I have read the article, and normally that information is distributed to local councils, but at this stage we don't know any more than what was in the article.
Okay. All right, sorry, and someone else had Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. A couple of questions. The CEO statements provided in the run sheet, is this new addition the result of our new acting CEO?
This there is, and I was going to get to give you that information when we started the agenda rundown. But yes, now that you've asked the question, you will see on all of the items that have been withdrawn, there is CEO response. And yes, that is a direct result of the new acting CEO putting that in place today.
Okay. My second question, are staff debating the items by providing these statements?
Sorry,
are staff debating the item by providing these statements?
Staff debating the item. And not that I'm aware.
Okay. If the practice continues, will the acting CEO ensure staff provide correct information so as not to mislead and properly understand the alternative motions?
Well, I think if there is misleading information in the information you've received, then perhaps that should be brought to the attention of the CEO.
Well, I'm only just seeing it for the first time. So, and what clause of 6.1 is it in accordance with?
Through you, Mr. CEO.
Subsection 4, which enables the presiding officer to seek the views of the CEO. And I've taken the view that it is far better to advise all councillors in advance of the item in writing on what the views of the CEO are in relation to each of the amendments.
If you want to seek further clarification, write to the write to the CEO.
I'm only seeing it for the first time. So
okay, so as I said, if you want to seek further clarification, write to the CEO, and I'm sure he'd be happy to respond. Councillor Johnson, did you have a?
Yeah, thank you.
Question?
I must admit, I don't understand the question and answer. Where is this new and different thing that Councillor Bowman is referring to?
There is on, when you, just if I get you to go to,
Yeah, no, I just want to know which page, so I'm looking at
they
the
are
right
on
thing.
all of the pages.
So I'm seeing page 19, CEO statements of relevant and material facts. Is that what we're looking at?
There is, you'll
Thank you.
see there's one on page 19. There is also one on page 20. So under each of the items, there is a CEO comment.
So, Mr. Presiding Member, I guess my question is this the CEO fulfilling his duties under the Local Government Act to give us advice?
Well, I think the CEO just gave you that answer.
That's just would like confirmation.
Yes, well, certainly through the Chair, one of the CEO's statutory obligations is to provide councillors all relevant and meaningful information to enable you to make a decision having regard for all of the information. So clearly the initial part of that advice is contained in the advice, which is contained in the report, but obviously the CEO and his staff have not had the opportunity to provide any information on any alternative or amended motions. So under that particular clause of the standing order, section 6.1 subsection 4, I am fulfilling my obligation under the Act in providing you with relevant information in relation to the amended or alternate motion.
Thank you, that's excellent.
Okay, thank you. So we go to 11 then, which is the leave of absence. I have one notification from Councillor Henderson from the 15th of August to the 22nd of August.
Mr. Deputy, can I add one more as well, please?
You can add.
Thank you. Can I please have the 26th of September to the 14th of October as well? The sheet provided.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else taking leave? No, I need someone to accept and move that. Councillor Zanino, seconded by Councillor McCulloch. Is there anyone against? No. Declare that leave confirmed. Confirmation of the minutes. Resolutions are required to confirm the minutes of the special meeting of Council held on the 30th of June and the ordinary meeting the Council held on the 6th of July. I'll take them both separately. So the one for the 30th of June 22, moved Councillor McCulloch, seconded by Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against? No. And in the Council meeting held on the 6th of July, someone who moved. Councillor Parry, seconded by Councillor Jones. Anyone against? No. Carried. 13. Any business left over from the previous meeting? Item 13.13. It has not been withdrawn by anybody. I need a mover and a seconder for 13.13. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for 13.13. Councillor Johnson moves, seconded by Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against? No. Declare it carried. Thank you. All right, 13.14, which is unauthorised patio transport or structure of home businesses. Councillor Predovnik, you have a motion in the white folder.
Through you, Mr. Presiding Officer, can I please just read my amendments? It's just about 3 sentences.
I think all those that are in red,
Yep.
I'll accept that you read them in red because everything else was there previously. These are just amendments,
Yep.
and everyone has been notified. So off you go.
So point 2 just says it needs to be removed from the wall. Point 3, the transportable building and public patio, are to be set back a minimum of 500 millimetres from the retaining wall to mitigate against any potential adverse impact on the structural integrity of the wall. Point 6, the home business shall not operate within the transportable building until such time as that building has been certified under the Building Act 2011. Until such time as the transportable building has achieved certification, the home business may operate within an area of no more than 50 metres square within the existing house. And the reason for changing the officer's or the staff's recommendation is to ensure that the approved development can operate in a compliant manner and without adversely impacting the adjoining property.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone opposed to that amendment? Hey? Got a question? Yeah. So have you got you seconding? No. I need a seconder. Councillor, well, I've got Councillor Jones seconding. Thank you. Is there anyone opposed? Is there anyone opposed? No one's opposed, and I'll declare it carried. All right, adoption of those recommendations contained in items not withdrawn. So for the benefit of members observing the meeting, the Council uses an en bloc method of decision making. This means the agenda items where Council supports the officer recommendation are not debated separately. One vote is taken on all of the items. Officer's recommendation is therefore a decision of Council. The following reports, Part B and Part C, have been withdrawn for debate in accordance with the Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019 and will be dealt with by the Council individually. So these items that have been withdrawn: Part B, proposed policy city funding; 2.1, women's wellness sessions at the City of Swan Leisure; 3.1, dog exercise on lead prohibited areas; 3.2, Metropolitan Regional Scheme Amendment, rationalisation of Rosehill Estates, I'll give it 4.1, and consolidated amendment of local laws, removal of designated horse exercise 7.1, and in Part C, C3.1, Swan Valley and Sword Athletic Sporting Club. Are there any others? No, I'll move on. So, the following items have not been withdrawn for individual consideration and will be dealt with via the en bloc vote. Therefore, the officer's recommendation will be the decision of Council. So 4.2, consideration of submissions, proposed amendment 205 of Planning Scheme 17 to remove additional use 73 from lot 61-6 Purton Place and lot 400 bracketed 107 and lot 401 bracketed 103 Clayton Street, Bellevue, LPS 17-205. 4.3, change of use from warehouse to recreation, private lot 108, bracketed 169 and number 769 Truganina Road, Malaga. 4.4, appointment of design review panel. 4.5, statutory planning decisions under delegated authority. 6.1, list of accounts paid June 2022. 6.2, financial management report for the period ending the 30th of June 2022. And 6.3, building permits correction to budgeted fees. I need a mover to accept all those en bloc. Councillor Parry. Seconded Councillor Jones. Anyone against? Declare them carried. Right. So now we'll move on to the items that have been withdrawn. And again, there is a CEO statement attached to the end of all of these. So the first one is a proposed motion by Councillor Bowman. Councillor Bowman on 2.1.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Mr Deputy Mayor, I move that Council resolves to 1, not endorse policy POLC city funding; 2, seek Council feedback on current concerns and issues they have and are aware of with the community funding; 3, request staff to develop an overarching funding framework that is supported with the policy and procedures; and 4, record the reason for changing the officer's recommendation is a draft policy does not address issues and concerns raised previously by councillors or by some members of the community, provides little to no guidance to staff, and existing corporate documents need to be reviewed and brought into a single funding framework.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McCulloch. Is there anyone against? You're against? Okay, if you're against, then we'd like to start the debate. Thank you, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, we received a briefing from staff a little while ago where I raised concerns. Staff have not included any of this in the draft policy. A good example is, what if a funding applicant gets funding for X, Y and Z and only does X or X and Y? Do we ask for the remaining money to be repaid? Some councillors can provide some really good examples of when X, Y and Z are not undertaken, yet the full amount is not returned. If this is correct, perhaps something is currently wrong with the policy. Councillors, the audit undertaken by Deloitte less than 2 years ago identified a need for an overarching funding framework. Staff have not developed this. They stated they decided to incorporate the framework into the policy to avoid conflicting documentation and confusion from too many corporate documents. Frameworks and operational procedures don't belong in council policies, and if we're doing so, then we're in desperate need, in my opinion, to change, as this is not what policies are. Too many corporate documents, staff quote. A good framework properly considered and written will review these documents and bring them all into one, but that will involve some work. Councillors, are you, like me on occasion, questioning why some groups are getting funding and perhaps even why some are not? If that is the case, then perhaps there's something wrong with the policy. Councillors, in this agenda under item 6.1, list for accounts to be paid in 042528, I asked the question, what did the 15,000 activation grant provide and who to? And the answer was it was provided to the Ellenbrook Secondary College P&C Association. The purpose of this grant is for activation grants, multicultural event on November the 4th, 2022. If you have concerns with staff providing this grant, then perhaps there's something wrong with this policy. Again, referring to this agenda, I ask the question, is item C 3.1 a grant, and how is this captured under the policy? The answer provided, no. This will be considered with the procurement policy under the direct engagement processes. But then I asked, why is the contribution amount in item C 3.1 sourced from the constructions and maintenance park budget when it's not our park or oval? Is this a donation or a contribution? The response, apologies, that the wording in the report is not as clear as it could be. The funding is identified as part of developing the city's parks maintenance budget, but is included in the budget for grants, subsidies and donation. So an item budgeted for in grants, subsidies and donation is not covered by the proposed city funding policy. I question then that perhaps there's something currently wrong with this policy. Councillors, the report states on page 205 that the policy was distributed to all councillors for feedback and no feedback was received. We know this is not correct. The draft policy was not provided to councillors, and we were advised shortly after I questioned this point that it was an oversight. Councillors, do you get told more issues, twists and turns about suggested who gets funding and who doesn't and donations? I know I did and that was just during my election period. And whether it's true or not, surely we need to address this. A policy is to provide councillors guidance to staff so that the issue or the item does not have to always come to council. The draft policy, in my opinion, misses the mark completely, and perhaps is another reason why the proposed direction put forward by staff is not the best way forward. Councillors, do we need a funding policy? Most definitely. But we first need staff to undertake a complete review of what is existing and develop a comprehensive funding framework, and then the policy. I'm not saying I know best, but what I'm saying is follow the directions of professional advice received from Deloitte that clearly stated a need for an overarching framework. Councillors, on this occasion, I'm saying we need to start again, and this is the reason I've moved this motion.
Thank you. Seconder.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillors, Councillor Bowman has addressed most of those issues pertaining to not endorsing this policy at this stage. More recent feedback from residents and groups may indicate a need for further discussion and clarification, and that is important that we attend to that. We need to get this right. Considerations around specific fundings do need to be addressed, and I think time needs to be taken to consider this. And yes, we do need a rigorous framework and a comprehensive policy. They are essential, and I think we need to go back and we need to look at this, because funding for various activities, projects, programs and initiatives in the city is essential. It benefits so many of our residents, but we need to look at how it's done, the whys of the issues, and make sure that we're getting it into the right hands.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson against?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Presiding Member. Yeah, some councillors may recall that since I've been a councillor, asked many questions about grant funding and how grant funding is verified to determine that it's been spent appropriately, and if it's not all spent, what's the process that's been gone through. And on numerous occasions, staff have assured us, and I know some councillors around the room are aware of this, that the process is rigorously followed by staff. Staff want to see every receipt when a grant is made. So I know from my own personal examination of this matter that this is being followed rigorously. I have examined, as some councillors are aware, one particular organisation in detail, and I cannot find any fault with the process that's being followed. I think that the Deloitte's audit outcome has been followed because what Deloitte's have done is they are our internal auditors. They have surveyed existing best practice and produced work with the staff to produce a policy that is currently best practice. Now, the other thing I would say is this. I do recall some years ago when I first got on council, and I guess that's about the third time I've said this, I wanted to know, do we as councillors get a report to understand which members of the community, which organisations are getting grants? To me, that was a pretty fundamental thing for us to verify that the money is going to the right organisations. We have a report that is a confidential report brought to council on an annual basis, and councillors are able to look at that and go, yeah, okay, I see who's getting it, I see which organisations are being funded, and we know how much they're getting, and we understand what the exact position is. And so I'm confident that the current process is working because I've examined it in detail. This new process, what it does is it brings us up to speed with current best practice in other parts of Australia. So, councillors, I don't think there's any reason to not endorse the current policy. I think there's every reason to endorse it. And the CEO statement says the funding policy has been drafted as a consequence of an audit finding requiring the city to have a policy and a framework. So we do have a framework. So we have a framework that governs sponsorship and grant funding by the city. So I think we don't need to make any change here. I think we can either endorse the policy, or if we don't, we can go on and defer it and get the acting CEO to explain in more detail what's required. The only additional thing I would suggest is I do think we should ensure that councillors are not involved in any way, shape or form in the grant process. I don't think councillors should be applying for grants, auspicing them, doing the returns or anything like that. Should be completely out of it, hence the reason for my amendment. So I do believe we should endorse this policy. I'd happy to go to deferring it to have a briefing, and I would like to make a slight amendment to it. So that's the reason that I'm opposed to the Councillor Bowman's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone for the motion? Councillor Catalano.
Thank you. I've had quite a lot to do with applying for funding for not-for-profit groups over the years before I became a councillor. And I've got to say, the City of Swan, applying to the City of Swan for funding was probably the most onerous grant process that we went through. Often it was for actually a considerable less amount of money. So I think I'd like to have that concern raised and taken seriously in any kind of framework, any kind of policy, any kind of procedures, or the outline of how the funding system works. Because currently what I see is we've got a set funding round of grants, which doesn't seem to have changed very much at all from what I was used to going back 10, 15, 20 years. So I'm thinking, okay, nothing's changed actually on the actual grant interface. And so it looks to me that what we've done is just applied a policy over the top of that to make that somehow legitimate. But the problem is that the actual grants and accessing those grants is a problem first and foremost. So you can't just fit a policy over the top of what is, I think, it's a system that actually is very clunky. It's very hard for not-for-profits and small community groups to use. But also, I think that there's an element in there that makes the allotting of grants potentially, shall I say, it's not absolutely transparent how those grants are actually given out, and sometimes in the past we've had to fight tooth and nail just to get the grants when we've ticked all the boxes. So there was this element of subjectivity. So all those problems can be addressed and ironed out in a proper this proper feedback session where councillors can feed back all these problems into the current framework? I don't know, into the current grant system that we have, so that it's not only the policy, but that the policy is going to be created with amended grant framework and whatever, the grant system. I call it a system, really, more than a framework. It's a system because there's lots of all these different kinds of grants and all these different types of prerequisites, and it's very clunky. And then at the end of it, then it's not even certain that you're going to get it, even if you meet all the criteria. And then it's not really clear why you don't get it all So there's just a lot of problems that I'd like to definitely share with staff to get the whole thing right. So I say let's not endorse it. Let's go back to the beginning and look at the funding system and all the kind of grants we've got, the grant system, all the different grants we've got, and whether they're appropriate, whether they're fit for purpose, whether it's too clunky to make the applications, and then work the policy in with all of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone against? Anyone for? Okay. Councillor, you have the right to reply.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Not much to reply. Councillors, the community should know who gets the grants. It shouldn't be behind closed doors. It's not a secret. Best practice, state and federal, will actually show that that's the case. Councillors, whether one councillor or many councillors have read who's got what, we're not the experts. Deloitte's is. Councillor Johnson said councillors shouldn't be involved. Well, perhaps we should make sure that's in the policy. Councillors, we all know of issues where community funding is perhaps, questionable, where we've heard comments, why someone got it. We need to get it right, and this motion is saying let's just make sure we start again and do that.
Okay, let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Okay, so we have Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Prodovnik, Councillor Howlett, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Knight, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Richardson, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Henderson. So those are all in favour, and those against are Councillor Johnson, myself and Councillor Parry. Have you got those? Motion is carried. Go on to 3.1 now. Councillor Bowman, over to you.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Mr Deputy Mayor, I move that Council resolve to 1, trial a women's-only aquatic program at Swan Active Beach Borough in both terms 4, 2022 and term 1, 2023. The programs run on a Sunday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m, include casual swimming and swimming lessons offered by City of Swan instructors. The program is staffed by females only. Number 2, their report be provided to Council at the end of the trial, providing in detail the outcome of the trial, including total number of visits, number of women that undertook the swimming lessons, any changes in revenue or expenditure, and any complaints received, and overall feedback from the attendants. And number 3, my reason for changing the officer's recommendation is that trial can be undertaken this financial year by utilising the quietest 2-hour period. Aquatic only provides limited impact to the existing users, and women-only gym and fitness classes are currently already provided within the City of Swan.
Have a seconder. Councillor Knight.
Yeah, I've got an amendment. Would like to
Amendment
propose
is?
an amendment.
Is she not against? She's looking at an amendment. Well, I was under the impression, sorry, and I'm not, that an amendment could be put to the mover and a seconder to be accepted. That was my understanding. So, correct? Okay, so Councillor Prodovnik, your amendment is?
My amendment is for another class and day to be decided as well. So we've got more than one option. We've got 2 options.
Sorry, so another class, another day? I mean, we need to fit it into the motion.
So after it says from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. and another class or day to be added and decided, obviously through staff.
So you're asking the staff to decide another time, another session?
Because they've done the research and they've got the report, so they've got a lot of feedback on what people were saying.
Is that acceptable to the mover in a second? And no, you're not acceptable. So do you want to throw this out to a debate?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is there a seconder?
So now don't I speak first? I haven't accepted her.
Sorry. And again, just give me the leniency, please, Councillor. All right. Do we now move with the amendment? Or we go back to Councillor Bowman to start the... Mr CEO?
Through
hang on.
the chair, it would be normal practice for the mover and seconder to speak
Speak,
first,
yeah.
and after the seconder has spoken, you can then.
Okay. All right. So thank you. Thank you for your indulgence. Okay, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. We finally got there.
Thank you. Yes, Ken. No. Sorry. I'm going to get confused here. All right. Councillor Bowman moved the motion. I asked for a seconder. All right. Councillor Knight seconded. All right. Now Councillor Bowman is going to start the debate. I have a seconder. Well, Councillor Parry's opposed. Okay. Yeah, Councillor Parry's. Yeah, but I thought I saw your hand go up, Councillor. Sorry. So Councillor Parry's opposed. All right, Councillor Bowman.
Okay, take two. Councillors, if I could sum up this item, perhaps I could do it in just 2 words: inclusive or exclusive. Councillors, each and every one of us have our own views on this issue. After all, we are a sample of the entire City of Swan population. Perhaps it could be reasonable to suggest it's more than just that of the report in front of us. What your views are, and if they're completely different to another councillor's, can I suggest neither is right or wrong. So the question that needs answering: is the city being inclusive by excluding others, or should the city be exclusive by including others? This item first came to council in the lead up to the last election, and it's been suggested it was done for perhaps political games. The reasons why it first came to council by who should not be a consideration, and we need to look essentially at the positives and the negatives for all our residents. And I see that there's both some positives and negatives for providing and not providing. Councillors, you may have other positives or negatives providing or not providing the accessions that I may have not thought of, and they have not been included in the report, which I look forward to hearing from. However, for me, it came down to the following main points. Is the service provided elsewhere in the City of Swan? Could it be provided at no additional cost to ratepayers? How can we have minimal impact on current facility users? And will this be supported and the service used? Councillors, there are already women-only gyms and fitness classes offered within the City of Swan, and as such, we should not be seen as competing with these by replicating this. In addition, the officers in the report state that the City has previously supported groups through grant funding and access to facilities to run women-owned wellness sessions. There is no reason why this also cannot continue. So therefore, access to aquatic only is the only activity not currently provided for women only, and is therefore captured in my motion. How can it be provided at no additional cost to ratepayers? It can be if done within the current operating hours. The pool is only open to 3 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays in winter, and then extended to 5 p.m. in summer. The hours of 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. is included in my motion, allows this to be undertaken at no additional cost. How can we have minimal impact on current users? And I am a member of and user of the Swan Active Beach Bar. This can be done by only including aquatics. Therefore, gym members can continue to use the gym. The 3 to 5 p.m. Sunday period is the quietest pool usage, and the Term 4 and Term 1 exclude school holidays, therefore does not impact on the kids and family during school holidays and Christmas periods. And therefore, finally, will this be supported and the service used? No one knows. And as such, a trial and then reporting of will. But I hope that those that ask for it, push for it, ensure that it is, and don't make excuses if it isn't. Otherwise, if the result is that we exclude more than we include, then I do not foresee support extending past it. Councillors, I'm aware that there are some very extreme views by some in the community on inclusivity, and they are entitled to these, as they are their views. But in closing, to anyone in the community feels the need to send inappropriate or questionable comments about my views, and I do get a few from time to time, and maybe it's another council's views or the council's decisions, usually provided by fake Facebook profiles these days. If you are a real person and you do take the time to phone me or email me, my first question will be, are you a member or user of Swan Active Beach Bar? My second question, do you use the aquatic facilities? And then finally, my third question, when was the last time you used the pool on a Sunday between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m? If you answered no to any of these, then I will be asking you, how does this personally impact you? Or is it simply you think your views are better than anyone else's and no one is allowed to have a different view? Councillors, before I sum up, I just want to correct the CEO's statement. It will not cost $60,000. I have not included blinds in there. I sent councillors a picture today where I could not see anyone in the pool. So therefore, I'd like that actually corrected. And finally, councillors, I started my debate by stating I could sum the item up in just 2 words, inclusive or exclusive. Perhaps I was wrong, yes? Perhaps I was wrong. And in fact, only one word is needed, that being understanding.
Councillor Knight, the seconder.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think this is a good motion. I think it's a good compromise between the cost and providing a service to the people in the city. We have a large population, I think, of women from other countries where dress standards are different. So I think this is a good it's a good service that we can provide. I don't think it's going to be too onerous on the city to run this. Once a week for 2 hours, that's not going to disrupt many other users, I don't think. It's also about, I think, safety. Getting, again, women that may have come from countries that are landlocked wouldn't necessarily learn to swim in these countries. So getting them in the pool and learning to swim and maybe helping to teach your children, surely it's a safety thing. So I agree with this. We're not going to be spending money on putting blinds in. That's a good outcome. So yeah, councillors, I think that we should support this motion. It's good and it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Prodopnik, you had an amendment. Yeah. Do you want to put your amendment down?
Yeah, so I'll speak to the amendment when I... Yeah.
I'll just get you to read out your amendment, please.
The amendment is to include another class, a day and time to be decided.
And you'll need a seconder to that. Is that okay with the mover and the seconder?
I've already rejected it.
That rejected it before? All right, so then it's got to go to then...
Can I speak to it?
You've got to speak to it?
Yes, thank you.
Is that correct?
I was going to say, are we going to get a verbal statement from the CEO on the impacts of this?
I don't want to get the CEO to make a verbal statement on the impacts. Just please go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm glad we have an opportunity to look at this again and that the report to Council does recommend a trial. But if we go to trial, let's offer more than 2 hours a week, particularly as we are the biggest local government authority in size in the metro area. Cannington is a smaller shire, but it runs this program in 2 of their leisure centres in Cannington and in Riverton. Between the 2, they offer 4 classes a week. 2 classes at noon on Tuesday in Cannington and 2 classes on Friday night at Riverton in the evenings, so 6 until 7 p.m. and 7 until 8 p.m. Councillor Bowman talked a lot about inclusive and exclusive. He said, let's not exclude more than we include.
Point of order.
Agree.
And your point of order is?
We're not debating my motion, we're actually debating the amendment.
It's relevant.
Continue on, please.
Yeah, I agree. Let's provide a couple of options during the trial. It will also give us more data to analyse and more options to attend and make it easier for people to attend who can't attend Sunday between 3 and 5. That flexibility, I believe, will help make this trial a success. Please support this amendment.
Okay. Seconder. Councillor Howlett. All right.
Got a question.
Question.
Does the city have, the CEO or any member of staff have any information that would tell us how many people would be excluded on Sundays between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. So how many people is it going to impact?
Point of order, Mr Mayor. We're actually debating the amendment, not my motion.
We'll have to come back to another question. I'm sorry. Yes, we are debating the amendment.
But it helps me decide which way I'm going to vote on the amendment. That's why I've asked it now.
Okay, Mr. Bishop, you got an answer to this?
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. The officer's modelling has looked at the impacts of who would not be able to access the pool during the different times of weekdays and weeknights. I'm not sure if it was actually in the detailed report attached to the council item. I'm just having a look to see if I can find it. It probably doesn't go into that detail, but certainly it's been modelled as part of the cost implications. I'm just seeing if I can find anything in the attachment. If it's anywhere, it will be in the attachment. Mr. Presiding Member, I don't think it actually lists the exact estimates that applied. The estimates have been factored into the costings of loss of revenue, essentially, that comes from that. So I won't be able to provide that detailed answer for the debate tonight, but certainly that has been done by the modelling by staff.
All right, so that's the answer you've got, Councillor Johnson. We can't get any more definitive than that, I'm sorry.
The answer is we don't know.
Okay, so we had Councillor Howlett as a seconder. Yep, you got any comment?
No, I have nothing to add.
Nothing to add. All right. Okay, is there anyone against? Okay, is there anyone against the amendment? Councillor Parry. All right, you've got a question.
Can staff tell me when there's no program events at the pool that would be able to fit in with another day? And also, the second question is, what would be the cost?
Mr. Bishop.
Mr. Presiding Member, could I just please ask that the first question be repeated?
Can you speak up a bit for me?
So the first question is, are there any time slots available currently during the day besides the Sunday period where there is no organised programs or training / lessons that occur?
The officer recommendation is obviously to trial this program, albeit starting in the following financial year when we can budget for it, and to trial it during a weekday and a weekend. I don't think the report specifies a specific time. We do have actually the manager of leisure services in the audience. If with your permission, we can ask whether he's aware of the particular slot, any vacant slots in the time.
I think if you can come up to the microphone, please, and if you can answer the question, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Currently, we've identified the times that we feel will be the least impact across the community. There's at the facility at the moment at Swan Active Beachborough, there's no 2-hour period where it wouldn't affect any other programs or events. It's quite a very busy facility with our own internal swim school programs, education department, swimming, etc.
I've got a question. Sorry. I just wanted to ask, you said no 2 hours.
Through the chair, please.
Sorry, yep, through the chair.
Yep.
You said there wasn't any 2-hour slots. Is there a 1-hour slot?
I probably can't answer that directly at this point in time, but we can come back with that information, yeah.
Okay.
The reason I ask is because it's 1-hour slots in...
No, if it's an answer to the question, I don't want it to start to move on to other areas. Councillor Bowman.
I wish to speak against it now.
No, just one moment. There's already got Councillor Parry against it. You're handing it over to Councillor Bowman.
Question.
Councillor Johnson.
Question.
I think you're all making this a bit more difficult than it could possibly be. Councillor Johnson.
It's a very, very... This is going to be a bit like the milk bar or the ghost kitchen. Could this program be run in 1 hour?
Mr Bishop.
Through you, Mr Presiding Member, the first thing to highlight is there is a bump in time and a bump out. It's not as simple as turning on at the beginning of an hour and turning off. We need to allow time for current patrons to remove themselves from the pool, prepare the facility, make sure there isn't anybody in the pool area who shouldn't be there. The program then starts for the hour, if it is to be an hour, and then there's a half hour roughly bump out time where there needs to be time for those patrons during that program to exit in a secure manner, and for other patrons then to come in. So you're looking at a minimum 2 hours. If you run a 2 hour program, you're looking at realistically a 3 hour program.
Question. Through you, Presiding Officer, to Mr Bishop. If that's the case, why are there 1 hour programs run in these other facilities?
Mr Presiding Member, I can't speak for exactly how City of Canning run their program. I would imagine they advertise it as a 1 hour program, but the reality may well be that other patrons cannot use the facility for a period just before the program starts and just after. If you're advertising a program, you probably wouldn't be highlighting the bump in, bump out period, if that makes sense. You'd be saying, if you're going to come to this program, it's on from 4 to 5.
Okay. Councillor Bowman, please start your reply on the against the motion.
Councillor Podovnik's motion wants an amendment. Thank you, Councillor Johnson, for correcting me. Wants another time slot. When, where, why, we don't know. Councillors, this was a start. The extra time slot is going to have significant financial costs. We also cannot please everybody. Councillor Podovnik's motion is trying to make it more popular. We could have 5 or 6 sessions and we still wouldn't have times that people are suited. That's why I'm against this amendment.
Okay. Anyone for the motion? And also against? Yes, the amended motion, sorry. Against? Okay, so therefore, Councillor Podovnik, you have your right of reply, please.
Again, it's just a simple request. We are the biggest metropolitan local government by size. It's an opportunity to add in an extra hour at a time to be determined by staff who will be working with the facility, and obviously looking at the best time to provide an opportunity for people to attend. It would be worth looking into, I believe.
Okay, so we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment to the motion? Councillor Podovnik, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Howlett, Councillor McCulloch for. The rest are against. The motion is lost. So we're back to where we started from. Councillor Bowman, you have the... Anyone against Councillor Bowman? Councillor Parry.
Mr Deputy, I wish to continue my stance on this issue, in which I said twice already, is that all ratepayers, be male, female, junior, senior, or with cultural sensitivity, should be considered equally. I also note that it is also important to remember that the principal matter is that the City of Swan has a high duty of care to ensure egalitarianism as well. The City of Swan needs to make sure that every person is treated equally, whether you're man, woman, child, or whatever race, religion, you are treated the same. Now, there's 2 questions I wish to ask councillors to consider. One, how can we claim to be inclusive if we exclude half the population? And are councillors willing to accept men-only gym days as well? That's an important... Well, as Councillor Howlett just basically said, no, I'm not, which makes it discriminatory in some regards as well, doesn't it? That's the question about egalitarianism in regards to that. And finally as well, one point I don't like in regards to Councillor Bowman's is that between 3 and 5 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon as well, as a father of young children, Councillor Bowman, I hope you are there at the first session and trying to get rid of those mums and dads with their kids and trying to get rid of them by 3 o'clock on a 46-degree day, trying to get them out of the pool. And in regards to whether I'm qualified to have that assessment, yes, I am a member of the Swan Active. yes, I do use Balladura facilities, and last time I was in the pool 6 weeks ago, and for the record, I've also done an Ironman campaign in those pools as well, so I know a fair bit about them. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone for the motion?
Amendment.
Councillor, your amendment?
Yeah, so my amendment is to delete the word Sundays from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. and to replace that with outside existing opening hours at the discretion of staff.
Acceptable to the mover and seconder?
We've already debated.
No, can't do that. Yep.
No, this is a different amendment.
So I can't accept it.
I was asking, you can't accept it, right.
Okay.
Okay.
So I need a seconder.
You need a seconder. Is there a seconder to Councillor Johnson's new amendment? Sorry, sorry, I can't. I'm not sure whether you're doing a Marcel on me or what's happening. Sorry, you are seconding. Thank you. All right. So, is there anyone against? Yes. So, therefore, we need to go into the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. Mr. Presiding Member, and Council, I'm really torn about this one. The reason is, it's one of those things that we can't tell if it's needed until we do it. So we don't have any data. There does appear to be a demand for it, but we don't know what the demand is. And if we did it between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m, we might discover that there isn't much demand, but there's an awful lot of very disappointed families and disappointed male swimmers who expect to swim from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So my view is there's no reason why we can't give this a go. It says trial a women's only aquatic programme, and Councillor Bowman's approach is to try to reduce the cost by not including the blinds, and he's tried to reduce the cost by using existing staff. But I say, please let's not inconvenience existing users of the pool between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. So I think that my amendment is a satisfactory compromise that would enable us to test whether this programme is really needed and to give it a go without inconveniencing anybody. Thank you.
Councillor Predovnik, seconder.
Yeah, just quickly. If this motion doesn't propose extra cost, then this amendment shouldn't propose extra cost either. And again, it's just an opportunity to be more inclusive and provide more options as part of a trial that provides more data. It's just a good idea.
For the motion. Question.
Question of staff. What times do we open and close in summer, Monday to Sunday? So therefore, what 2-hour period would be available?
Bishop.
Mr. Presiding Member, in winter...
Summer, I asked.
Sorry, in summer it closes at 5 o'clock at the weekends. Was that the answer?
So therefore, if it wasn't Sunday 3 to 5, it would have to be Saturday or Sunday 5 to 7 p.m, according to that?
Yep. If it was in the summer period and it was outside of our opening hours, it would be after 5. So it would be 5 to 7.
And what time do we open in the morning on weekends, so we could have 2 hours beforehand? So what time do we open Saturday, Sunday in the morning?
Mr. Presiding Member, I'd have to look that up.
And then also the weekdays as well, please.
Does your staff member know, rather than look it up?
He may do. If you're happy to defer to the manager and the audience.
The microphone, press it on and give us the answer, please.
Yes, so through the chair, so weekdays is 6 a.m. till 8 p.m.
So would I be right then, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that if we did it outside those hours, it'd have to be 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. or 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Monday to Friday, or otherwise 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday or Sunday? Can I ask if that's correct?
I can ask you through the staff, but I would suggest you're correct. Mr. Bishop.
I'm just going to ask Councillor Bowman just to repeat that again to make sure we've got it correct.
So if the pool is open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m, am I correct that 2 hours before or after the opening times would either have to be 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. or 8 p.m. to 10 p.m, Monday to Friday, and then weekends the only two options would be 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday or Sunday?
That sounds correct, Mr. President.
And through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, my next question is, I heard that it won't cost any more. Can we get from the exec manager of corporate, if we open a pool 2 hours more than the current opening hours, is there a cost associated with that?
I think I can answer that one, Councillor Bowman. You can answer it yourself. Yes, there would be a cost.
Mr Deputy Mayor.
Righto. Councillor, sorry, is there anyone for the amendment? Anyone against the amendment? You're against the amendment? Councillor McCulloch.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillors, while I value the intent of this amendment, I feel that we might be going around in circles and maybe piecemealing and in an ad hoc way, adding to something where we have a fairly rigorous and comprehensive option down the track. And if this motion of Councillor Bowman's fails and subsequently Councillor Parry's, I would foreshadow option 4, the hybrid option, which gives us a really rigorous trial that has come from community consultation, and we place a lot of value on that consultation, with over 15 stakeholder groups consulted and feeding into how this might work from their experience. So while, like I said, I value the intent of this amendment, I think that we need to look at what we have before us, and I commend City staff for going away and bringing this report that I requested in December to Council, that we can peruse, and based on our City staff's recommendation with their experience and the consultation that they've done, I think we've got something we can move forward with and find great success.
Okay, anyone for the motion? Already done the against? All right, then let's put it to the vote. All those in... Oh, right, a reply. I forgot, I had so many rights of replies, Councillor Johnson, I forgot where I was.
I was just waiting for my chance to speak, Mr Presiding Member. Look, councillors, I think 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. On a Saturday or a Sunday is an entirely reasonable time for this experiment. It's not going to inconvenience anyone. It may cost a little bit more, but hey, it's an experiment. We're trying to find out if there's any actual demand here without actually inconveniencing anybody. So if my amendment goes through, I'm going to support Councillor Bowman's motion, but I won't be inconveniencing anybody by closing the pool from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the summer. Thank you.
Okay, let's put it to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment. Councillor Prodovnik, Councillor Johnson. The rest voted against. Sorry, motion lost. Thank you very much. Now back to where we started again. Thank you. So, am I up to the right of reply yet? Have we done all the fors and against? No? Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. And not much of a right of reply, because the only councillor that spoke against the substantive motion was Councillor Parry, so I'll stick to his facts. Excluding half. I said in my opening comments, inclusive or exclusive, that was the decision. Councillor Parry did make a bit of mistake. We're not excluding anyone from the gyms, so I don't know why he was mentioned a men's gym only day when the motion purely talks about the aquatic centre. Mr Deputy Mayor, Councillor Parry talked about me being there at 3 o'clock, telling all the mums and dads and that. Well, if I was there at 3 o'clock and lately, I'd be so bored talking to myself because there's no one there. And my child actually has been swimming there in that period of time. We chose to go there in that period of time because it was quiet. And if we can't go there from 3 to 5, we'll just go earlier. 46 degrees. Yep. Hard to believe. It might be 46 degrees. We have other facilities. There are other facilities we can go to. We're not saying all our facilities are closed from 3 to 5. Councillors, inclusive or exclusive, that's the decision. There's no right or wrong. Let's give it a trial. It's a easy way to see. We can't please everybody. We may upset some. This has the least impact to be able to do that trial. And please, I ask you to support my motion.
Okay, let's put it to the vote. All those in favour of Councillor Bowman's motion. So Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Brodovnik, Councillor Howlett, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Richardson, Councillor Knight. Sorry, just keep your hands up so I can do the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And those against? Councillor Johnson, Councillor Catalow, Councillor Congerton, Councillor Parry and Councillor Zanino. So the motion is carried. Oh, Councillor Henderson, 4 against, sorry. Councillor? Sorry? I can't, he's waving, I'm not sure what, I can't hear him. You're against the motion? Okay, so that's 7-7.
6-7.
6-7?
6. It's 7. It's carried 7-6.
Councillor Jones, Councillor Barber, Councillor Brodovnik, Councillor Howlett, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Richardson. Richardson. So just make that amendment down there, thank you. So we've got 7-6, the motion is carried. Correct? Correct, we've got one Councillor Henderson outside, we've got one Councillor not here. Councillor Lucas is away. All right. Okay, motion's carried. Thank you. All right. Move on to 3.2, proposed dog exercise area. There is a revised recommendation, as you would have seen on page 21. With the amendments in Schedule 2, I'd like a mover and a seconder. We have a proposed motion by Councillor Bowman. And don't forget the revised recommendation, should it go back to there. So do I need that revised motion by the councillors? Does that need to be acknowledged? Okay. All right, so council has to resolve to accept this, or we're going straight to Councillor Bowman's?
The practice is you would go to a councillor who would be lodging an amendment.
I don't know, sorry. So I'm just seeking some guidance on 21. So the amendment to the Schedule 2 as per the attachment 1 is amended in this report. So that is the amendment in the report. So is that accepted? It's in your motion. All right, so we'll go to yours then, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Would you like me just to read out the changes? Or
please, just the stuff in red. Thanks.
Okay, so but just pointing out, recommendation 1 is as per attached 1 on Schedule 2, which officers already told us about. Number 2, assess where there is evidence of ongoing conflict between dogs and all the public in a public place that has or is being reported to the city, and for the city to consider appropriate actions to help manage such conflict, where any changes are proposed to the management or restriction of dogs in public places for the city to implement a significant localised community engagement process prior to making any such change in that area. And that was, wording came from Councillor Catalano, so I'm not taking credit for that. Number 5, request the CEO undertake an immediate review to the rostering of the community safety advocates to ensure maximum numbers are rostered to undertake patrols during peak periods of dog activities, such as from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. weekdays, to conduct proactive patrols of parks. Number 6, require that proactive patrols to be undertaken by community safety advocates during peak periods, including 5 to 7 p.m. weekdays, and there be an increase in the number of proactive measures to encourage good dog management and behaviour, including information, marking and education. And number 7, which I need to read out, is recording the reason for change in the officer's recommendation, is that peak periods of activity in dog parks presents the ideal time to better educate and enforce against poor dog management behaviour. It also presents an ideal time to collect data on where the problem areas are and to consider management strategies such as a restriction or signage requirements, and there's no need to reference the Disability Discrimination Act specifically.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Jones, is there anyone against? Councillor Johnson, do you wish to debate it? Okay, Councillor Bowman, start up, please. There isn't someone against. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. We all know there's many dog owners that are passionate people, but they also need to understand that some people in that community don't like dogs, may be frightened of dogs or have other reasons. And as such, dog owners can't be expected to have free run of everywhere. Spaces do need to be shared. The administration, I think, got this one wrong. and didn't us councillors hear about it? The way it occurred, when it occurred, what occurred, and then the other issues. But I was really glad to see that the staff acknowledged this and was reflected in the recommendation, which is basically to keep it the same. There is still a lot of work that needs to be undone, as many people don't know the rules, don't understand the rules, don't care about the rules, or basically say get stuff to the rules. And this does create conflict. There are a small percentage of irresponsible dog owners that do whatever they want, and it's these people that need to be dealt with appropriately. And this is what the majority of dog owners have said to me. I agree. Why penalise the majority who do the right thing? However, the sight of a city ranger, or what Swan calls customer safety advocates, out and about between the hours of 5 p.m. to 7 p.m, which from the feedback and complaints I have received is one of the prime times for conflict, and it's rare to see them. Councillors, staff will often tell us they can do this or that, but it will require more staff and or more money. This is not always correct, and sometimes it simply requires a change in thinking or to have a better business model. In this case, councillors, it does not cost the city any more in staff costs to have more of our rangers working from the 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. time frames, nor for that matter weekends, as their ordinary rate of pay is the same, Monday to Sunday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Rostering rangers from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday is not utilising the resources that we have to the maximum benefit. This is why my motion is for the CEO to review the number of customer safety advocates rostered on from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m, and for them to be out and about and definitely not stuck behind a desk. Councillors, we at the City of Swan are reactive. The community has told me that the staff have told me this and the community have told me this, and I've seen this. Let's be more proactive. Let's get out and about with our customer safety advocates at a time that matters. Let's get talking to the community and let's start dealing with those dog owners that allow their dogs to run uncontrolled on sporting ovals when sports are on, who don't think it's their job to pick up after their dogs or take their dogs to the playground around little children, or any of the other issues and problems that we all hear about and are aware about. I want to hear members of the public telling me about having a conversation with our rangers, or how our ranger was seen addressing a situation with an irresponsible dog owner. And Mr Deputy Mayor, I just want to clarify the statement from the CEO that actually says will have consequences to staffing levels and potential budgeting issues. Mr Deputy Mayor, I disagree with that, as the ordinary hours of rate of pay for rangers are the same, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It also talks about we won't be able to respond to other emergencies. I'd like to challenge that too, Mr Deputy Mayor, because nowhere in my motion says rangers who are working 5 to 7 will only be looking at dogs and dogs only. There are other issues, but what I'm saying is let's have our maximum amount of rangers out and about and make sure they're not sitting behind the desk. That's what my changes are.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think Councillor Bowman has covered it adequately and I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Councillor Johnston, you're against?
I've got a question.
Yep.
Are our safety advocates sitting behind desks?
I have to say sometimes they are doing their paperwork, because they don't do their paperwork on the road or sitting in a park, so I'm familiar that they actually do sit at a desk at some stage. So you're against.
So instead of sitting behind desks, they would go out dealing with this.
I think I've given you the answer, Councillor. Can you please see you have?
So
you're
I guess
against
the
motion.
question is, what else are these safety advocates doing that they will not be doing if they are rigidly rostered on in this way? I'm asking the stuff, Mr. Presiding Member.
I've got a councillor. Sorry, Mr. Bishop. God, Mr. Bishop, almost promoted you.
Mr. Presiding Member, advocates do have to return to the office, particularly they have to attend office at the beginning of their shifts often to pick up vehicles and equipment, and also at the end of the shift often to return vehicles and equipment and to upload data into computer systems. Our interpretation of this motion is that we would be expected to have, if not all, just about all advocates available to patrol at the end of the last 2 hours of their shift and at the beginning of the shift when there's peak periods in the parks. So the implications of that would simply be that we would have to look at rostering some staff to not finish at 7, but to finish at 7:30, for argument's sake, or 8 o'clock, to enable those who perhaps need to do that, or to change shift patterns so that they could, rather than be out patrolling during the middle part of the day, come in perhaps mid-afternoon, do the data transfer, equipment transfers or whatever, and then go back out and do the inspections, if that helps explain.
But I guess the other part of my question was, what are the other duties of the safety advocates besides dogs?
Oh,
such as parking. But I'd like to hear from the staff.
So through you, Mr Presiding Member, the community safety advocates, yes, they do parking, wandering livestock, other local law enforcement, emergency management support, bushfire inspection. So obviously during those months leading up to summer, we actually direct all our available resources into doing proactive fire inspections in the semi-rural and rural areas in the lead up to fire season. So that's where we would need to, if we follow this motion, we would obviously have to pull out of some things to make sure we can commit to Council's decision.
Okay, got your answer? Okay, now you're against the motion.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So, Councillors, I think we've heard from the staff. So this motion is directing the staff excessively, in my view. It is directing the CEO to allocate his resources that would appear that even in emergency situations such as a bushfire, when bushfires are generally going pretty strong in the summer, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. in my experience, to actually be conducting patrols of parks. So I think that we need to allow the CEO discretion to decide how to allocate his staff, what they should be doing, when they should be doing it, what their hours should be. I don't think it's for Council to get involved in direction at this level of detail. I think it will be counterproductive. I do recognise that protecting families and children and people who might be afraid of dogs from dogs in general and protecting the community at large from dangerous dogs, but the safety advocates are already doing that. They're already available to do it, so we don't need this additional level of direction. The main thing I've noticed, councillors, is that we need to be reviewing park signage. For instance, I wasn't aware until this motion came up that Stirling Square in Guildford is one of the designated on-lead areas. I had simply no idea of that, and the reason I didn't know that was because there's no signs. So nobody knows. So I regularly see dogs off-lead there, so we could probably solve most of the problems by simply putting up proper signs. I would suspect that in most cases where there's a dog off lead, it's because the owners just don't know that the dogs are supposed to be on lead. So I don't think we need this. I think the officer's recommendation has got it correct. We can fix the limited amount of conflict between dogs, and I must admit, in my time on council, I've only had one complaint made to me about someone who has been bitten or had some otherwise negative engagement with somebody else's dog. So I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think we need to direct the staff in this way. Let's let the CEO do his job, and the officer's recommendation, so they are the experts in this matter, I think meets the will meet the expectations of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone for the motion? Councillor Knight.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I support this motion because Mr Bishop and I had a conversation last week, and correct me, I don't think you mind if I say that you're moving in this direction already with the Rangers, and I think compliance is going to be a big part of the dog review in future. Signage is absolutely essential, and we have to have areas that will be on lead and policed. So this is a good initiative, and they won't, as Mr Bishop was telling me, the Rangers will be doing other duties as well. So I mean, there's in suburbs like Brabham and Hennybrook where there's still lots of building, there's still lots of crime going on. So to have the Rangers just doing some drive-bys and things like that, that's more eyes on the street, so that's a good thing. And I'm sure if there's a bushfire, then they're able to prioritise, going to a bushfire or patrolling a dog park. So, yes, please support this motion. It's a good one. We've got to get it right. And, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone against the motion? Councillor Prodovnik.
Yeah, just quickly. I actually think the officer's recommendation has got it right. So, I think we just really do need to leave it to staff to manage this as part of their daily workload. I would foreshadow raising the officer's recommendation if this one doesn't get up.
Thank you. For the motion? Against the motion? Okay. Councillor Bowman.
Councillor Johnson said this is excessively directing staff. Well, let me tell you, if it was, this item would have got pulled. Read the motion, councillors. I'm leaving it to the CEO, but I'm requesting him to undertake a review. Councillors, I was wondering who would put up a lot of smoke on this item, and Councillor Johnson did. Under the risk of...
Point of order. Thank you very much indeed. Please, can you refrain from making those statements?
I refrain from it.
Withdraw it. Please.
I withdraw it.
Thank you.
Councillors, the threat of not attending a bushfire is unbelievable to think. This motion does not say anything like that. What this motion deals with is looking at, can we get more out of our current resources? Why do we need staff sitting behind their desk at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. writing reports when they could be doing it between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Mr Bishop explained why they're behind their desks at that time.
Well, it's not a point of order, but thank you.
Councillors, Councillor Johnson said he doesn't have many people contact him, or one. Councillors, I get weekly calls about not seeing rangers and rangers not being out and about from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. If we can, after the CEO has done the review, increase the number of hours that they are out between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m, isn't that a great outcome? Because my residents and my ratepayers and my voters have actually asked me for that. Here's a way we potentially can improve our service by not increasing our expenditure. Councillors, it's not all about dogs, but what I'm saying in this motion also is let's get the maximum number out. How many that is, I don't know. I'm not telling the CEO. I'm asking him to look at it and see, can we rearrange things to get those out there at that time?
Okay, let's put it to the vote. All those in favour of Councillor Bowman's motion? Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Howlett, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Parry, Councillor Knight, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Richardson, Councillor Henderson and myself. The rest are against, and you can put the against hands up, please. Councillor McCulloch and Councillor Johnson. So your motion is carried. Thank you. Oh, Councillor Prodovnik too, I beg your pardon. I wasn't sure what you're doing. The Marcel bit, thank you. Oh, goodness gracious. Here we go. So 4.1 now. So we're up to the Metropolitan Regional Scheme Amendment 1396-57. And we have a motion by Councillor Johnson. And please note, sorry, one moment. Please note that Councillor Catalano has withdrawn her notice of motion. So we'll get your questions when we're underway. Yeah? No, when we're underway. Thank you. So, Councillor Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mr Presiding Member. My motion is that Council resolve to advise the Western Australian Planning Commission that the Council does not support Metropolitan Region Scheme Amendment MRS 1396/57 at Rosehill Waters, South Guildford, for the reasons that there will be a loss of 2.27 hectares of parks and recreation reserved land and 3.75 hectares of rural zone land, currently presenting as 6.02 hectares green open space adjacent to the Helena River floodplain, which is unacceptable to the South Guildford community. Any modification to the MRS should not reduce the total rural area and parks and recreation reserve area. 3. Any land swap should not increase the urban area in what was once a golf course. 2. Record the reason for changing the officer recommendation is that the council should be responsive to the views of the community who are opposed to the MRS amendment because of the overall loss of green open space and, should be up there, an overall loss to community of environmental qualities currently zoned parks and recreation to urban in exchange for land of inferior environmental quality for public open space. Okay.
Seconder. Is there a seconder? Yes, Councillor Richardson I have as a seconder. You have a question, Councillor Catalano.
Yes, thank you. I'm very confused about this one because if I go to the diagram, figure 2 on page 313, I'm looking at 2 parcels of land in orange and a parcel of land in green. Okay. And I'm assuming that those 3 parcels of land are in fact the ones that we're discussing tonight. Yes. And I'm assuming that those 3 parcels of land are included in the original structure plan for Rosehill Waters 2017.
Mr. Vanderlyn.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I don't have a copy of the original structure plan with me, but I presume all of that land would not be included because of the land that's currently rural. So if you go to figure 1, the green areas there is the rural component, and normally the rural zoned land would not be included in the structure plan.
Can we have that checked? Because I looked at the structure plan this afternoon and I understood it that that land, and I'm talking about the parcel of land, the orange parcel of land to the south, underneath that green, was actually public open space in the structure plan. So can we have that confirmed?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, we'll have to get a copy of the structure plan to do that. And
We can
I don't
do
have
that
a copy
online,
of that.
can't we? Can't we do that online? It's just a matter of Googling it. I did.
We can.
Can you do that? Because I'm afraid we were told tonight that it wasn't included in the structure plan, and I believe that may not be correct. So I think it's not, but I'd like to be proved differently.
Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. Mr. Vanderlyn is correct. Before the regulations came in that allowed a structure plan to be taken over any land where the WAPC thought it was acceptable, the time in which this local structure plan was advanced, you could only have a structure plan applicable to a structure planning area. And that could only be areas that were zoned residential development. Rural land is never zoned residential development, so it would only have been to the existing brown portions that would have been subject to the structure plan. Now, you will see, but it's important to note, you will see structure plans nominally indicate, for the sake of reference, adjoining land that is not subject to the structure plan, but how the structure plan area may integrate with it. It does not mean, whilst it might be depicted on the plan, that it is subject of the plan.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's fairly technical.
Sorry, you have another question?
Yes, okay. It's just that I want to clarify then. You're saying that the rural land, and that is currently zoned rural, that section to the south, that is not included in the structure plan because it was rural land is not included in that 2016 structure plan.
Mr. Vanderlyn.
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And Deputy Mayor. And the basis of me saying that is the fact that the rural land is generally not included in the structure plan.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got more questions, I'm afraid. I do need to clarify these
Well,
questions.
I'd really like to see if anybody's against the motion, because it might just
Oh,
get
okay.
carried. And if we keep on going with the line of question, I'll never get to that point. So, you got many more questions?
I do have quite a few, yeah. I mean, probably, I don't know exactly how many, but I do want to get to the bottom of this because I don't quite understand it, and I've been
Would you mind
trying.
if I got to the point of asking if anyone's against the motion? So is there anyone against the motion? Okay, if there's no one against the motion, we declare it carried, and that deals with your part of what you had as a resolution.
Thank you for that. I can find out more
Ask those
later.
questions
Thank you.
afterwards. Okay, thank you. All right. 7.1, a consolidated amendment of Local Law 2022, removal of designated horse exercise arena. Councillor Bowman, you have a change in or an amendment in red. Just want to announce the red part.
I have, Mr Deputy Mayor, and that is number 2, that the 5,000 costs to change the local law be fully charged to the Henley Brook Developer Contribution Plan, and 3, the reason for changing the officer's recommendation is developers need to be charged for all the costs of their developments and not the ratepayers.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Jones. Is there anyone opposed? No, and I'll declare that carried, and I will make a statement in respect to that. The City of Swan gives notice the City of Swan Consolidated Amendment 2 Local Law 2022 with the following purpose and effect. The purpose of the local law is to amend Schedule 12.6 of the City of Swan Consolidated Local Laws 2005, and the effect is the local law is to remove a horse exercise area. All right. We'll move on to C1.1, Councillor Henderson, rating of commercial phone towers. Councillor Henderson, you're online.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Deputy Mayor, should I say? Okay, so I move that Council resolve to 1, write off the rates due from an amendment of the rate record where there has been a change in predominant use of land to commercial to accommodate separate commercial leases for their telecommunications infrastructure where A, the land parcel is owned by a church and was previously exempt from paying rates. B, the land parcel is owned by a not-for-profit incorporated that was previously for the purpose of community use, and C, there is no opportunity in the commercial lease contracts to pass on the additional costs to the lessee. Number 2, where the above amendment to the rate record to address predominant commercial use of land has resulted in rates being generated for up to 5 years preceding the current financial year that they've been written off, and the reasons are as printed, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Zanino. Is there anyone against? Question, Councillor Bowman.
First question is, how did the administration become aware of the fact that the rates were not being applied?
Ms Lay.
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, there was an audit conducted of the city's rate record.
And Mr Deputy Mayor, can I request that the motion be split?
And how do you want this split?
1 and then 2. One's dealing with back rates.
I see what it is. Yes, I do. I see it. Any question?
My question is about this this whole motion. The rates that are being charged are commercial rates for the phone tower lease or the phone tower. Is that correct? The rate is for that piece of land where the phone tower is, and it's a commercial rate.
That's correct, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
And this motion seeks to not rate that piece of land where the tower is at a commercial rate.
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, it seeks to write off the rates that have been raised.
Okay, and what about the future rate for that commercial tower?
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, there is no reference to future rates in this notice of motion.
Okay. All right. So I asked if there's anyone against.
Yes, I am.
Councillor Catalano. Councillor Henderson, you can move to the debate.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillors, there's a fundamental problem with the the concept of rating a not-for-profit in this manner. The problem we have is that if you look at churches, they are rated free, and you ask yourself why, and that's because they provide a community service and they assist the community and for other purposes. In a similar way, this club is a not-for-profit club. Their purpose is entirely and totally for the purposes of supporting the community for their sporting activities. So the club wanted to and needed to bring income to the club to be able to improve facilities, to grow the organisation and to make it better, such that more and more people could have access to and would be able to use the facilities. So consequently, they entered into agreements to undertake commercial activity, if you wish, but not to the detriment of someone else. So in the case of the other piece of land that's been rated commercial, that would compete with others, and it's only fair and reasonable that that piece of land is rated appropriately. This particular piece of land is to support the club, not someone's pocket, not to actually grow someone's benefit, but purely for the club to grow and to work. So, councillors, I don't think I need to say much more other than we really need to say, okay, how do we support our community groups in sport? What is sport all about? Well, sport's all about being able to get out and be active. We don't have enough sporting grounds throughout the entire city. We could talk about other parcels of land that could be utilised for public purpose. Even so, they take a lot of money to develop, and over time, that's going to be in demand in any case. So we need to be able to say to this club, in this particular case, in terms of its ability to raise funds, that they should not be rated in this manner, and that we should write those off. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Zanino.
Mr Mayor, or Deputy Mayor, councillors, I think that Councillor Henderson has covered it quite adequately, and I think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Catalano is against the motion.
Thank you.
Sorry. I'll take your question after this one. Thank you. Councillor Catalano. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think this motion opens up an enormous can of worms because a not-for-profit is exactly that. It operates not-for-profit, and once you start, once a not-for-profit starts engaging in commercial activities, there's basically the line between not-for-profit and profit starts to become very grey and very blurry. And, you know, it's not just sporting clubs. I mean, the motion itself refers to churches, so we could have you know, churches with any number of phone towers, because, you know, they're not-for-profits and they need to be sustainable. I mean, it's enough of a clear concept that if somebody is making a commercial fee from a commercial activity, that they need to pay a commercial rate for that piece of land that commercial activity is on. It applies to everybody else, and so it should apply to a not-for-profit that is now going to start engaging in a commercial activity, because it's just going to be so hard and so subjective to start deciding when that not-for-profit stays a not-for-profit, when it's got any number of commercial activities within its what it does, but also within on its land or within what it does. And if we extrapolate this kind of grey area a little bit further to our funding or the grants rounds that we were talking about. What happens then if a not-for-profit comes along and says, oh, can I have some grant funding? I'm a not-for-profit. And the city says, oh, no, you've got commercial activities. You can't possibly be a not-for-profit. But actually what we're saying here in this motion is a not-for-profit is an entity that can engage in commercial activities and that can make a profit from commercial activities, whether it puts it to its purpose or not. It's engaging in commercial activities, and therefore, why can't you get that funding for that part of your not-for-profit that isn't engaging in commercial activities? You can start to see how everything gets very complicated because you're having to separate off sections of whatever that not-for-profit is doing that's commercial from what it's doing that isn't commercial. Let's just say if you have a commercial operation that you pay your rates on that at a commercial rate, and the bit of it that you don't have as a commercial operation, you pay whatever those not-for-profit or subsidised rates are. That keeps it very clear, and we don't get this ridiculous sort of grey area that makes it so hard to identify what it is in terms of not-for-profit and what it is in terms of commercial.
Thank you. Question, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and I'm a bit confused now, so maybe the question might answer it. If this motion goes through, what happens for next year's rates?
Well, the question was asked earlier by Councillor Catalano to the staff, and I'm not the answer.
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, this notice of motion was written to address the interim rates that were charged in April 2022. So it's talking about that as the current financial year and the backdating. It's not in reference to the current 22-23 rates.
So then what's the difference between recommendation 1 and recommendation 2?
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, that was to address the backdating of the rates that were raised as part of the interim.
My third question is, if we do amendment to the rate record, doesn't that automatically then bring up the previous history of rates, which is up to the 5 years?
Ms Lowe.
Under the Act, yes, it does. The local government has the ability to charge up to the previous 5 years. This notice of motion was structured just to be explicit that it included the current plus the back rating.
So just so I'm right, because obviously now I don't need to split it because recommendation 1 and recommendation 2 are saying exactly the same thing. If this motion goes through, it'll only be what's been raised because we've found an issue, and so then next year they will get charged the rates. Am I correct?
That's my understanding.
Yes, and Mr Deputy Mayor, just with reference to Councillor Bowman saying next year, that refers to the current 22-23.
Councillor Jones and Councillor Johnson.
My question's been answered, thank you.
Councillor Johnson.
Just one final clarification for me, Mr Presiding Member, through you to Ms Lay. Does this mean that in this financial year and in future financial years, those phone towers on not-for-profit land in the commercial leases section, they will be charged at a commercial rate? Is that correct?
Yes, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Okay, so do we have anyone now for the motion? Anyone against the motion? Councillor Henderson, write a reply, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I assume we're dealing with part 1 at the moment, are we?
We are dealing with the entire motion. We're dealing with the entire motion. So 1 and 2.
Actually deal with 1 and 2.
1 and 2 as one motion, yes.
Right. Okay, Councillors, I just want to make a point about what a not-for-profit does and what commercial is. So Commercial is literally for commercial profit, for the gain of people in a corporation or whatever. What we're talking about here is an organisation that is trying to make money for the community, which is a separate matter to individuals. And that's really the key. I'm not sure that I agree entirely that the way the first motion is written, that it's just for this year, because it says rate off rates due for amendment of the rate record, which to me doesn't talk about a year, it talks about running off. So to me that would be each year. But in any case, the point to get to is that the discussion is around commercial, and if you consider the other parcel of land, it is commercial, it will pay full commercial rates. This is a different parcel of land on the same overall block, and its purpose is to obviously to support the community. Councillors, I just want to touch on a point raised by staff, and was touched on by Councillor Catalano, I think, about the precedents. From what I can see, it doesn't create precedents because it has a specific purpose rather than a broad spectrum purpose. So, councillors, I think this group has been knocked off their feet by the proposal from the staff to rate them so heavily. Was not expected in any way, and they have no way of any recourse. So I ask that you support my motion. Thank you.
Okay, put the motion up. So all those in favour of Councillor Henderson's motion? Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Prodovnik, sorry? Okay, Councillor, where am I? Johnson, Councillor Howlett, myself, Councillor Parry, Councillor Zanino. Okay, and how many is that? Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7, 8. Thank you. And those against, you can put your hand up. Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Richardson, Councillor Knight, Councillor Catalano. Is that it? Motion's carried. Thank you. All right. We move on to C1.2, Councillor Henderson, Business Planning Budget Workshop. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, councillors, and thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move that Council resolve to 1, be provided with a November business planning workshop to facilitate Council priority settings to inform the 23-24 corporate business plan and budget process. And the reason is to assist councils in understanding the implications of the 23-24 budget and consider the short-term and long-term impacts of their budget wish list. This process will allow council items to enter the system earlier so that they can gain a broader understanding of cost implications.
Second up, Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against? I don't know you could have any questions on this, but anyway, Councillor Bowman, a question.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I have a few, actually. Is it possible that we can get a budget timeframe presented that includes and sets dates of when we will do things, who will do it, and actually lock those in with the budget workshops?
More than happy to incorporate that, Mr Mayor, Deputy Mayor.
What he's not seeking is a question, so he's not putting it as an amendment,
Well,
it's a question.
I've asked.
But I think we put it to the CEO. Mr CEO, with this, can this be included in this business planning workshop? Ms Lay says yes. CEO says yes, so yes is the answer.
And will we have an opportunity to review what worked well, what didn't, and what needs to change?
Mr CEO, the answer is yes. Ms Lay?
We welcome that feedback from councillors, Mr Deputy
so
Mayor.
that's a yes.
And will service plans be part of this process? Service plans, will they be part of the process?
I can't answer that question, Ms Lay.
Yes, Mr Deputy Mayor.
So yes.
And will we get business cases on any additional FTEs?
We can provide that if council so
Yes.
wishes.
Yes.
Sorry,
And will draft capital projects be provided to councillors, and will business cases come with those?
Sorry, if you can just repeat the question.
Draft capital projects, when they're provided to councillors, will we get business cases on those?
I think that was a comment made by our CEO today at a meeting, is to make sure that that is included in part of our budgetary planning processes.
And then my final question is, will staff also be able to, as part of the process, incorporate that the capital projects are ranked as what we've requested previously but weren't provided?
Ms Lane? Do you need it read again?
We will take that feedback on board and look to how we can incorporate that, Mr Deputy Mayor.
All right. So I ask the question, is there anyone against? No one against? Declare that carried. Thank you. All right. Notice of motions for consideration of the following meeting. Councillor Parry, you have one.
Yes, I do, Mr Mayor. My motion would be to request the CEO to provide a report to Council on the adequacy of sport facilities, change rooms, toilets, club rooms for female patrons, including city facilities used by community clubs, to ascertain the adequacy of facilities for current and projected female facility use, and to provide the report to Council recommendations to address any needs identified as part of the 10 years capital works plan.
Okay. Thank you. And we need now to go. We've got a confidential item. We need to go behind closed doors. A mover, Councillor Jones, seconded by Councillor... Sorry? You want a break? Well, we move on? That's why I didn't call it at 8 o'clock. Go, Councillor Parry. And so someone to move behind closed doors is Councillor Jones, seconded by Councillor Parry. Thank you very much indeed. Is there Are we going to take the vote? No? So the vote to go behind closed doors. All those in favour? Right. Myself, Councillor Parry, Councillor Zanino, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Jones, Councillor Prodovnik. So it's 1, 2, 3. Sorry, Councillor Henderson, Councillor McCulloch. I've got what I count was 1, 2, 3, 7. Okay. So 7, 6. Okay, we're behind closed doors. So thank you for a wonderful night.